A top focus this Friday, viewers. White House trade advisor Peter Navarro has accused New Delhi of being a laundromat for the Kremlin. He's also said New Delhi does not need oil from Russia. Now, he added saying that India does not appear to want to recognize its role in the bloodshed and is in fact cozying up to Xi Jinping. The White House trade advisor has gone ahead to accuse India of not creating peace and perpetuating war. He has further gone on to accuse India of cheating the US on trade and has also called the tariffs Maharaja tariffs. Navarro said he thinks the new tariffs on India will come into effect on August 27. Now, his statements come as EM Jaishankar was in Moscow and called the logic behind Trump's tariffs perplexing. The EM also called out America's hypocrisy and said that India was not the biggest buyer of Russian oil. Listen into the EM, followed by Trump's motor-mouth trade advisor, Peter Navarro.
And the Indian situation is very interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but prior to Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February of 22, India bought virtually no Russian oil. Let me say it again. Prior to the invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, India bought virtually no Russian oil. I mean, it was like 1% of their needs. So the argument somehow now, as the percentage has gone up to like 30 and 35%, and then they make refined products, which they sell at premium prices into Europe, Africa, and Asia. It's strictly profiteering by the Indian refining industry, big oil. Now, think about India when you think about the tariffs we're putting in place. 25% because they cheat us on trade, 25% because of the Russian oil. I ask you this, what is the net impact on the Americans because of our trade with India? Well, let's think about it. They have higher tariffs, they're Maharaja tariffs, higher non-tariff barriers. We run a massive trade deficit with them, so that hurts American workers, hurts American businesses.
We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian oil, that is China. We are not the biggest purchasers of Russian LNG. I'm not sure, but I think that is the European Union. We are not the country which has the biggest trade surge with Russia after 2022. I think there are some countries to the south. We are a country where actually the Americans said for the last few years that we should do everything to stabilize the world energy markets, including buying oil from Russia. So quite honestly, we are very perplexed at the logic of the argument that you had referred to.
Meanwhile, Russia Today's Anastasia Volodina unpacks this simmering war of words.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov held bilateral talks with his Indian counterpart in Moscow, where the two sides discussed a wide range of topics, including those on the international and regional agenda. But of course, the main focus was on the conflict in Ukraine. And Sergey Lavrov underlined that Russia actually wants Ukraine to have a neutral status, and we've heard that for a very long time now, and that Russia will not accept Ukraine's alignment with any military bloc, especially the NATO. And Russia has previously stated also that Lavrov underlined that the root causes of the conflict must be eliminated, and we have also heard that on a number of times, as this is one of the key aspects why the special military operation started in the first place. Both foreign ministers praised the flourishing bilateral ties between Moscow and New Delhi, with Lavrov stating during his opening words that the trade turnover between the two countries has increased by 15% in the last year. And of course, the two sides had a very fruitful conversation. They've managed to discuss energy sector, transport, infrastructure, and of course more. And Lavrov's Indian counterpart has also praised the flourishing ties between the two countries. Sergey Lavrov also emphasized that the two countries will take their cooperation to a new level, and Indian actually, when asked a question about Washington's attitude towards India buying Russian oil, and as we know, the US has put pressure on India for India's support, so-called support of the Ukraine conflict through buying Russian oil. Indian Foreign Minister actually stated that India is perplexed with the US's logic, underlining that New Delhi actually trades with the US as well, and these numbers just grow as well. So overall, the very fruitful and productive talks between the foreign ministers of Russia and India as well, and with both countries clearly set to take relations to a next level.
We're getting some breaking news from the US where, Washington has halted visas for foreign truck drivers after the deadly Florida crash that took place on the 12th of August that, in fact, claimed the lives of 3 passengers. Secretary of State, in fact, Marco Rubio, has said this will be effective immediately and that he will pause the issuance of worker visas for commercial drivers. Now, this comes after an illegal immigrant truck driver, Harjinder Singh, allegedly caused a crash that killed 3 people in Florida on the 12th of August, 10 days ago, viewers. Now, in a post on social media platform X, Rubio has cited public safety as being behind this decision. In fact, he said the increasing number of foreign drivers operating large tractor-trailer trucks on US roads is endangering American lives and also undercutting the livelihoods of American truckers. Now, concerns about foreign workers driving commercial trucks began after the incident on the 12th of August, 10 days ago, where 28-year-old Harjinder Singh, who entered the US illegally, he was driving a commercial truck with a trailer on the Florida Turnpike in Fort Pierce when he allegedly attempted a U-turn in an unauthorized area, resulting in a crash and killing 3. Meanwhile, my colleague Vishal Vivek joins me for more on this. Vishal, what will be the implications of this decision coming in from America's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio?
Well, this is yet another chapter in the crackdown on immigration, and the US has been opening up different chapters when it comes to, cracking down on different workers coming into the US. Of course, the American, the crackdown will result in a lot of Asians, not being able to get into the US because a lot of these, measures that the US administration has taken in the recent past, that has already resulted in plummeting of application for visas. So this is a slightly different chapter because this deals with illegal immigration, and the driver, the aforementioned driver that you talked about, he was found to be an illegal immigrant and he was driving a tractor trailer, which resulted in the crash and resulted in the death of at least 3 people. And he casually swerved, that resulted in that big crash, and that has resulted in state versus federal versus state conflict as well. So the federal administration in the US and the California state governor, they have been clashing on this matter as well, as to how this illegal immigrant was given driver's license so easily. So these questions have been raised, and due to those questions, this crackdown could have happened, a blanket ban on foreign truck drivers. This will have several implications because a lot of Indians go to the US as drivers, so that will have to be seen how this unfolds in the near future.
Meanwhile, as they turn focus outwards, there were also a lot of internal loopholes that in fact resulted in this tragedy taking place on the 12th of August. This driver, viewers, for perspective, was granted licenses not in 1 but in 2 US states. This despite him being an illegal immigrant and also failing the English language test. Now we shift our focus far east, where before dawn Thursday, 2 Russian cruise missiles struck an American electronics factory in western Ukraine, causing extensive damage and also injuring more than a dozen people. Now, the factory, interestingly owned by US-based company Flex, produces household electronics like coffee machines and employs around 600 workers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned the attack, calling it a strike on civilian industry and American investment in the war-torn country. Now, videos emerging show thick black plume of smoke rising from the plant in Mukashevko. Now, this is near the Hungarian border in Ukraine. Now, the attack was part of a massive Russian airstrike, which included more than 570 drones and 40 missiles. along with them. They were targeted overnight across Ukraine, not in any specific region. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces intercepted most of the weapons they claim, but some got through, killing one civilian in Lviv. Here's more.
So you can still see the smoke and the burning of this American investment here in Western Ukraine. We are very close to the border with the EU, and just earlier this morning Russian missiles hit this location here. This is an American company, Flex, one of the biggest American investments here in Ukraine. And look at it, totally destroyed. This was one of the most safest parts of Ukraine. The Transcarpathia, this is the other side of the mountains, the Carpathians, and this has been really a safe part. And today, total destruction brought by Russia, by Vladimir Putin's missiles. And this is the time when literally earlier this week, days where a week hasn't passed, when President Trump met with President Zelensky, EU leaders, but also less than a week ago, he met with President Putin. And the destruction is here. It just shows that Russia is not interested in peace. Russia is destroying American business. Russia is destroying Ukraine. This is humiliating for American business. I think the good news is that there were no employees. 600 people were working here earlier today at the night shift, and luckily everyone's alive because the company really adhered to all stringent health and safety measures. So this is from Zakarpattia, from Mukachevo. The firefighters are still working. Really, the first responders are still here over 12 hours, and you can still see the smoke.
Now we stay with the region where, in a major development, viewers, Putin says he's ready to meet Zelensky. But there's a catch here. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergey Lavrov says all key issues must be resolved first. Now, before this meeting takes place, and he has also raised doubts about Zelensky's legitimacy. That's correct. Russia is claiming his term has expired. Meanwhile, Ukraine insists Zelensky remains the lawful president, and European leaders, for their part, remain skeptical of Russia's intentions. Now, they're accusing the Kremlin of stalling peace. Meanwhile, Donald Trump says he's working to arrange a historic three-way summit between Putin, Zelensky and himself following recent US-Russia talks in Alaska. Over in Western Europe, Italian police have arrested a Ukrainian man suspected of helping to carry out the 2022 blast that rocked energy routes between Russia and Germany, the Nord Stream blast. Now, the man, who's been identified only as Sergey K, was taken into custody near the Rimini on Wednesday. Now, this followed a European arrest warrant issued by Germany initially. He is believed to have coordinated a secret mission aboard the yacht Andromeda, which allegedly transported divers to plant explosives near the Danish island of Bornholm. The attack damaged the pipelines beyond repair. Meanwhile, prosecutors say forged identifications were used to charter this boat, the yacht Andromeda, and the entire operation may very well have been backed by Ukrainian forces. However, Kyiv has consistently and constantly denied this. Meanwhile, Germany continues its investigation as Sweden and Denmark have closed theirs now.
2.5 years ago, the Nord Stream pipeline blew up. Yeah. And despite what people like John Brennan and all the hawks said, you were one person who said Russia probably did not blow up its own pipeline.
Yeah, if you can believe, they said Russia blew it up, yeah.
And so I'm wondering, now that you're president, if you would consider launching a formal investigation into what happened there and who actually did blow it up.
Well, probably if I asked certain people, I'd be able to tell you without having to waste a lot of money on an investigation. But I think a lot of people know who blew it up. But I was the one that blew it up originally because I wouldn't let it be built. And then when Biden got in, he allowed it to be built.
Die Bundesanwaltschaft hat gestern einen beeindruckenden Ermittlungserfolg erzielt. Sie hat in Italien einen der mutmaßlichen Drahtzieher der Sprengstoff Explosion der Nord Stream 2 festnehmen lassen. Nach 3-jähriger akribischer Ermittlungsarbeit ist es ein wirklich beeindruckender Ermittlungserfolg. Jetzt ist auf der Grundlage des Europäischen Haftbefehls ein Überstellungsverfahren erfolgt, dass der Beschuldigte von Italien nach Deutschland überstellt wird.
It's time we slip into a short break. Much more lined up on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching World 24/7, and we now turn our gaze to the Middle East, where Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said he has instructed negotiations to begin for the release of all remaining hostages and an end to the war in Gaza on terms acceptable to Israel. Meanwhile, a shocking new investigation, viewers, reveals Israeli military data shows an estimated 83% of Palestinians killed in Gaza were in fact civilians. Now, these disturbing figures come from a classified Israeli intelligence database uncovered by The Guardian. As of May, the database listed just 8,900 named fighters as dead out of a total of 53,000 deaths reported by Gaza health authorities. Now, that means 5 out of every 6 people killed were not combatants. Experts say the civilian death rate is among the highest seen in modern warfare, rivaling only the worst atrocities like Srebrenica and Mariupol. Moving further westwards, the Trump administration is reviewing the records of more than 55 million American visa holders for potential revocation or deportable violations of immigration rules. Now, in a significant expansion of Trump's immigration crackdown, that is, the State Department has said that all of the foreigners who are currently holding valid U.S. visas are subject to continuous vetting for any indication that they could be ineligible for the document. Now, this includes those who already admitted into the country. Should such evidence come to light, the visa would be revoked, and if the visa holder were in the United States, they would also be subject to deportation. Indians granted visa to study at UK universities continued a downward trend, with majority of Indian students opting for postgraduate level qualifications. This is according to the latest Home Office stats released on Thursday. Now, Indian students at 98,014 visa grants in the year ending June 25 were a close second to Chinese visa grants for the same period at 99,919. However, both nationalities registered a fall in overall numbers compared to last year of 11% and 7% respectively. An appeals court has thrown out a $500 million penalty that President Donald Trump was in fact ordered to pay in a New York civil fraud trial only last year. Judge Arthur Engron had ordered Trump to pay the fee for massively inflating the value of his organization's properties in order to secure favorable loans, he said. Now, judges on the New York Supreme Court's appellate division stated that while Trump was liable for the fraud, the fine of nearly $500 million was excessive and probably also violated constitutional protections against severe punishment. And India has overtaken China in the smartphone exports race to send its products to the United States. Viewers, the share of smartphones manufactured in India in US imports climbed to 44% during April-June 2025, that window. It's a sharp rise from the 13% in the same quarter back 1 year in 2024. Meanwhile, at the same time, China's share dropped from 61% to 25% in the same period. The growth was fueled by Make in India initiatives and production-linked incentives or PLI schemes. And Grok, the AI chatbot platform developed by Elon Musk's XAI, landed in privacy hot water after users discovered that hundreds of thousands of their supposedly private conversations had now in fact become publicly available where on Google. Now, the problem began with Grok's share button, designed to allow users to create a link and spread their chatbot conversations easily. Now, what the platform failed to tell users was in fact that these shared conversations automatically become public web pages and were quickly also indexed by search engines. Now the result? Well, over 370,000 Grok chat logs were soon scattered across Google search results for anyone to discover. Southeast Asia, Thailand's Tourism and Sports Ministry has announced Thailand about 700 million program to offer free domestic flights for international visitors between August and December 2025. Now, the scheme aims to attract at least 200,000 tourists and promote travel beyond Bangkok, Phuket, and other major hubs. The initiative will be rolled out with 6 airlines. Now, under the plan, eligible travelers booking standard tickets to Thailand will receive either 2 free domestic flights or a one-way option, including a 20-kilogram baggage allowance. And well, it's time we step into a short break. News continues with my colleague Parmeshwar.